Who here likes weapons? I love them. I believe they can be an extension to oneself. Characters in fighting games express this very well. Most, if not all, these characters' identity is defined by the weapons they use.
I am the void. I am steel. I am the sword.
I am might. I am power. I am everything.
I am Hakumen.
You stand before Takehaya Susanoo.
The end has come.
They can range from guns, knives, axes, scythes, hammers, and even fists. But the most iconic and my favorite type of weapons are swords. I freaking love swords. I personally think sword characters are the funnest and smoothest weapon users in fighting games. Or in any game, really. The best part is that they all don't play the same. So let's see what different archetypes / playstyle there are and the characters who represent them. Disclaimer, I'm not a master at any of these characters I'm about to mention. Hell, I don't even play some of them, but I'll do my best to explain them, and I use the word best very loosely. You can get your typical shotos, or I call them B&B, jack of all trade characters with the occasional gimmicks. They work like normal shotos, but you know, with swords, vary from straight swords, curved swords, and even saber swords. They have fireballs, reversals, decent mobility, decent range, and Tims. They usually have the same game plan. Play neutral, open up your opponent, and do big damage. Characters such as Hohomaru, Kai Kisuke, Jin Kisaragi, Jago, Hyde, Grant, and Zero. What makes them all different is that they all have something that gives them individuality. Jin can freeze his opponents, putting them in a long hit stun so he can do some crazy combos while your ass is freezing in the negative. Hyde with his crazy ass records will give him options on how much damage he will do to his opponents since any sword attacks will chip away at their health. Zero's son Genmu will double his attacks and make sure anyone who fights him gets irritated. Shotos are fun and easy characters if you want someone who's a pick up and play. Not particularly good at one thing, but just good enough at everything. Unless you're Yu Narukami, who is a god at everything, and you should reconsider your life choices. You'll get your zoners and heavy hitters, the archetypes everyone hates. Keep you at a distance or hit you like a truck. Most of the time both. They can range from rapiers, longswords, or big ass greatswords. Rapier users are fast and have good poking tools. Although a little harder to play due to more precise timing, Rapier users always have some sort of tools that will always keep their opponents at bay. These characters are Orie, Mitsuru Kirijo, Charlotte, Catalina, Weiss, and Amy. They all consist of girls. Orie has Thanatos who will help her with mix-ups and extend her combos. Mitsuru has Artemisia who will whip you across the screen and freeze you. Weiss has set plays where she put up glyphs and makes you constantly guess what she's going to do next. Rapiers aren't really my favorite, but they are welcome, especially if you want to poke and play neutral, then annoy the fuck out of your opponent. Longsword users are hella scary and one of my favorite. Smooth like butter and fast as lightning. Just how long is a longsword? Well, if the sword is as long as your body or longer than your body, then it meets the criteria. They play the mid to long range game just like the Rapier users. They struggle at close range and have limited options when at a disadvantage, but they usually have a gimmick to them, and when you play these characters right, you will nuke everyone. These characters are Sephiroth, Yuzuriha, Hakumen, Percival, and Naguyuki. Sephiroth is really light, tall, and has pretty bad frame data. He makes up with it by having really long buttons, can kill early, put orbs on his opponents to pressure them, and has a comeback mechanic where if he loses, he becomes the one-wing angel, where nearly all his stats are increased. Yuzuriha has a trusty sword, Kamiji no Hamare, to combo her enemies to death with her swift movement and her full screen options. Nagoriyuki is a one-hit, one-kill character who has to manage his blood gauge. If it reaches its limit, he will rapidly lose health, but in turn, he hits a lot harder and has more range in his slash and heavy slash moves. High risk, but higher reward. These characters have a high skill ceiling, but they are worth learning. Greatswords are ridiculous. That's why they're so iconic. Usually slow, but have great range and do massive damage. The characters that use them are Cloud, Ramathal Valentine, Kagura Mitsuki, Nightmare, Nanase, Tusk, and Nermaya. Kinda. Cloud plays like a Shoto, has good neutral and do good damage. His gimmick is Limit Break. Once he charges it, his speed is increased and his special moves are enhanced. Ram has two giant swords that has amazing reach, and once she puts you in the corner, you're done. That's all I can really say about her simplistic gameplay and strive. And yes, I am a Ramathal main. Fight me. Kagura is both a charge and stance character. Depending on the direction you input his drive, he will do different stances that gives him more options that leads to more combos. Nermaya is weird. She has a longsword that doesn't really feel long and it turns into a greatsword. She can sheath and unsheath her sword, giving her two different movesets. And the only reason I put her in the greatsword section is because her sword really doesn't really feel long enough to be in the longsword section. And Nightmare is a nightmare. That's really about it. Greatsword users come in different sizes. I don't recommend them for people who don't like slow characters or characters that require management, but if you want Godzilla hitboxes and Ghidorah damage, greatswords are the way to go. You're probably thinking, so are all sword characters just good at swinging the metal rod around, doing big damage and poking? Well, if you looked at a mirror lately and you've just been staring at your own reflection trying to convince yourself that your life isn't pointless because you asked stupid questions, the answer is no. There's the Rushdown and utility characters. Rushdown characters usually use short swords and dual wield swords, and no, daggers are not swords. What classifies a short sword is that it's shorter than a broadsword and longsword, typically used with one hand, even though you see so many characters swinging big ass weapon with ease. Dual wielders mostly use two swords to fight. They rush down their opponent, giving them no room to breathe. Some characters even have a gimmick or mechanic that gives the opportunity to add more pressure so the other guy has to play high or low. Short swords and dual wielders usually have the same play style, so this will be quick. The short sword users are Taki, Nakaruru, Wagner, Tsubaki Yayoi, and Meta Knight. Wagner is a Oonga Boonga character with good frame data and block stun. She will never let her opponent play the game because they're always blocking, and she has those godly thighs. Nakalulu has short range, but her birds help her attack and gets her to places. And yes, I am aware when Lulu is also a short sword user, and I just conveniently happen to find footage of them fighting each other. Meta Knight is fast, small, and has an amazing recovery game. That's really about it. And then we talk about Brawl Meta Knight. Ugh. Dual wielders are Lancelot, Shominazuki, Jubei, Cervantes, Line, and Leo Whitefang. Do those things even count as swords? Shominazuki is the best character in Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. He has pretty good reach, tools, and options to get into his opponents and do massive amount of damage with the help of his persona, Tsukiyomi. Then there's regular Sho, that's faster but doesn't have a persona. Otherwise, boring as shit. Jubei is the coolest cat ever. He's hella fast and has a fireball that's good for Oki. He has a pretty good mix-up game and an infuriating small hurtbox that will help him low profile high attacks. Leo Whitefang is a straight up gorilla. He hits incredibly hard, has a crazy mix-up game, cross you up that will make you break sweat because you can't react to them. He has a command grab where he dunks you, a counter, a fireball, good reach, and all thanks to his Brynhilder stance. He is the definition of a gorilla. If you like the Rushdown playstyle, which is everyone, you'll like these characters. Fast, smooth, and deal tons of damage and pressure over time. Utility characters. What does that even mean? To be honest, I just made that up. Because these characters don't just use swords, they either have an arsenal or are the arsenal. I don't just mean shooting projectiles or occasionally casting some magic spells. No, I mean they do more than just swing a sword. Using different weapons, summoning, using RNG for casting magic, the list goes on. The archetype vary from character to character. These monsters are Noctis, 2B, Bailiff, and yes, I said Bailiff and not Byleth, Deathstroke, Belial, Dante, and New 13. Noctis is a guest character in Tekken, and the same thing for 2B and Soul Calibur. Both are weapon masters with good reach thanks to their greatswords, uses their swords for close and mid-range combat, and they will punch and kick the shit out of anyone just to extend their combos. Lastly, they have a finisher that involves them using everything they have and teleporting all over the screen. Wow! I never knew how similar they were until I wrote this script. New 13. You look at this yandere and question, how is this a sword character? Well, she summons swords. Her astral heat is called Sword of Destruction. Yeah, she's a sword character. She's fast, have a safe mix-up game, and you will never touch her. Deathstroke has a sword and tons of guns with too many bullets. Dante is just an arsenal. He doesn't just use his sword Rebellion, he uses dual pistols, gauntlets, a guitar, a saw-off shotgun, dual-wield swords, nunchucks, an energy gun, and half devil trigger. I mean, look at these combos! These characters are a blast to use. There's a tons I haven't even mentioned. So the question is, are they even sword characters? And the answer is yes. But they use more than just a sword. They do more than just swinging. They're a Swiss Army knife. I recommend them to people who like versatility and don't want to look like a basic bitch. I love sword characters. This video is to show off how fun and different they can be. Hell, take a shot every time I use the word sword. I get upset when people say too many sword characters or they all play the same. I get you want something different and not everyone likes to use swords, but come on, most of these characters have enough variety to make them different and play different. You want to complain about 20 sword characters out of 80 characters? Hell, I talked to friends that said that Noctis was out of place, yet Negan makes them want to buy Tekken. I don't know why the stigma against anyone who uses a sword is bad, yet if they announce another fist character, no one says anything. Unless you play Smash. People will complain about everything. Give these characters a try. If you can play them in any other game, you can play them in fighting games. I guarantee you will find one that connects with you. Oh, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, no matter how many times I bring you up, I can never like you. Your visuals may be nice, but your gameplay is boring and uncreative, your characters lack depth, and your netcode is hot trash. At this point, I honestly think this game was doomed to fail. Is there any way you can bring me back to the game? Guess I'm playing this game again. Let's go!